Hello everybody, my name is Ragdon, and I wanted to try something new and make a healer guide on a dungeon by dungeon basis. So kind of a, healer's tips. Just a couple disclaimers before I get going. This is made from a holy priest's point of view, and also there's going to be tips and tricks that I obviously haven't learned yet, and so if you have anything that I missed that you think I should know, please share it with me in the comments. I'm always looking for new ways to improve and so that we can share and all grow from it. So I'm going to go over a recent Plaguefall video that I did, just as something to show pull by pull. But my thought process for this is I'm going to go over key points that you're going to need to know in order to optimally play each pull. So for this first pull, this large ad and this next pack are usually pulled together. There's a couple things you're going to have to watch out for. The tank is going to be taking some pretty spiky damage. Also, depending on kicks and stuff like that, there's some group-wide damage. You'll need to watch your feet. There's a lot of green swirlies that happen at this time, so it's a good time to get some initial cooldowns rolling, because it's going to be a while before you need them before the boss. So just watch your feet, and then as a priest you can dispel the Wonder Grow, so watch for that being cast. So that's a nice thing to dispel, although if you have a mage in the group, if they're paying attention, a lot of times they want to spell steal it, because it's a pretty big buff to them. So not much to say here. Let's move on to the next pack. As you're going through these, just be aware that the doom shrooms and stuff in this corridor that are being cast can isolate you from the group if you're not paying attention and you're not being careful about your positioning. You can get cut off. So Fungi Storm is another big thing I have to watch out for. It can be interrupted or stunned, but it will do big group-wide damage while that's going out. So you need to be paying attention to whether the cast gets off and be dispelling the Wonder Grows. Okay, this next area, this room with all the slimes, typically these are grabbed in either a couple different packs or they're pulled all together. In any case, as a priest, you have the benefit of being able to mass dispel, and you can dispel the buff that they have on them that makes it so that when they die, they drop a big puddle. They drop a big puddle of goo. So something handy that you can do is you can mass dispel, and then also Blood Elf Racial if it's a big pull, since mass dispel I believe is only 5 targets. So if you're not a Blood Elf, or if you don't want to use it, or if you're saving mass dispel or something like that, tab target around and you can manually purge them, as long as the group is not going to die while you're doing that. It's not super necessary. The puddles can be worked around, but it is kind of nice. One thing to note is they do trigger affixes, so they trigger things like Spiteful and things like bolstering, and bursting is a big one that's scary. So you will most likely need to save your mass dispel, especially if it's bursting, for that. So don't accidentally use it to clear the little goop debuff and then realize that you're about to get 20 stacks of bursting, because that'll be the death of you. These Plague Belchers have a really easy to dodge cone, the Plague Belch. You can use things like Fear, Shining Force, tools like that to help the slimes stay away, so that you can kill this faster and get moving on to the next packs. So here, just what I was talking about with the slimes, if your group has CCs and stuff like that, you can really make it quite easy. But you'll see here in just a moment, it does trigger things like Spiteful, so you'll have to watch out and play it differently per each week. Okay, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about Pridefuls, because I kind of want this to be a guide that can go beyond just this tier, and I think at this point a lot of people are pretty comfortable with Prideful. Personally, I love the affix. I'm going to be very sad when Prideful's gone. Alright, so typically we just pull this one side. I'm not gonna go too in depth on roots, because this kind of stuff changed with the meta. You can already see how much roots have changed since launch. Alright, Globgrog. This boss is deceptively difficult on Tyrannical and stuff, so there's a couple things that you're going to need to watch out for. so you don't end up being the reason the group wipes. This slime wave will one-shot you, even unfortified. It is very painful. So you want to play this boss like you're a melee. This Plague Stomp, it's really easy to see all the damage that went out on the group and focus on dispelling and healing everybody up. But more times than not, if you do that, you're going to be out of position for the next Plague Stomp, and you're going to be the reason that the group dies. This slime wave. Excuse me, that's what I meant. And so you want to use some healing skills that you can use while you're mobile to get back up into a close position. As far as the big slimes, we don't have any long CCs that can be used, so it really should be up to somebody else that has a longer CC. But we do have some tools that can help us with it, so we can use Holy Word Chastise in a pinch. We can use our Priest Fear, Psychic Scream, Shining Force, things like that. But I would treat those not as the staple CC. It's more as an emergency, and then helping kill the small adds and CC those with things like Psychic Scream and Shining Force is really nice. So this hallway right here, spacing on his name, the big guy right here, the Spine Breaker, Blighted Spine Breaker. Two things you'll have to watch out for is his big frontal there, that belch. It has a longer range than you'd think, so you need to be careful. Another thing is his swirlies that he puts on the ground, those jagged spines. Sometimes they can be a little hard to see on this hill with everything that's going on, so just be careful with those. Moving down here, if you are Necrolord, then these slimes that are coming up are something that you can use Fleshcraft on to get the Covenant buff. So these slimes up here, these rot marrow, can be pretty nice. Be careful of the explosion of the canisters. If you get hit, you will probably die, but it's good for killing the ads. Right here, this pack on the stairs. Same deal as the pack that I talked about before. Watch out for the belch. Sometimes you can, with trying not to pull other groups and stuff like that, you can try to be running out of a swirly and accidentally pull another group. So just be careful with your positioning here. Plan out your movement before it happens, and then dodge the belches as well. There is a pack. This is more of a DPS thing, but you should be on top of this with a stun or something. There is a pack on this stair that will run, and a lot of times will pull other groups, so that's a pretty common wipe point. Okay, this next area, so here's the spines I was talking about. These corroded claws, watch for this disease stack to get too high. You can dispel it on the take. Also this root, that's really what you want to be dispelling. I wouldn't recommend dispelling the other stuff, or if you do, then you need to make sure Mass Dispel is ready to go, because that root is an easy way for people to die, because if they get rooted and then there's a jagged spines or a belch or something like that and they're stuck in it, there's nothing that they can do unless they have some kind of way to break roots, so that can be a little dangerous. Make sure that you dispel that root as fast as possible. Okay, moving on up here. These slimes, be careful not to body pull slimes. I would stay back and let the tank pull the slimes that he's planning to, and let the DPS be the ones that accidentally pull them. You don't want to be responsible for that. The slimes, tentacles, if they're spawned, they will attack you at infinite range until they're killed, and they deal a ton of damage. So if they're pulled, they have to be killed. This area right here. So is also, you need to watch if the slimes are not killed, the slime tentacles are not killed fast enough, then it will pick somebody up and it deals a bunch of damage. So while you're killing these slime tentacles, watch if somebody gets picked up, then you need to probably pop some kind of defensive on them, or just pump some heals into them. On the top of the stairs here, this is a really awkward place for line of sight. So you have to watch out for the explosions, both from the plague borers and then also his cast ability, his circle around him. So this is a lot of times somewhere where I would pop Divine Hymn or something like that, just because it gets really. I mean, you don't know what the tank is gonna do if you're pugging or something like that. And a lot of times he'll jump up to the other side of the stairs, and you're caught on the other side of the explosion, and you know, it's just, it can get really messy. So it's a good opportunity for heals that don't require line of sight, like Divine Hymn. But typically we try to stack these up so that the explosion from the Plague Borers kills the Blightweaver. So moving on here. As we go down the stairs, you can just ignore the Plague Borers after you kill the big guy. Apparently we want to kill him here. Alright, these two packs. So there is a, I believe it's, I'm trying to think if it's these packs or later. There's a gripping infection. Yeah, the root. So you want to make sure that that's a priority dispel. There's not much to say about these packs. They're pretty easy. Again, gripping infection. The root is bad. Anytime you see this debuff, this Icebound Fortitude looking kind of a debuff, this is I believe it's a 45% haste decrease, but it's gonna suck up their ability to do DPS. So if you can dispel that, then it's really good too, especially on your high priority DPS targets. As the pack starts to die, the gripping infection isn't quite as important, as long as they're not stuck in something or in range of the boss. But usually we kill these on the backside so that we don't pull the boss as he's doing his leapy thing. Okay, for this, same Spineburger mechanics. You need to watch out for the belts. You need to watch out for the jagged spines, the swirlies. Gripping infection is a huge priority dispel because of the swirlies. So again, that's a pretty common pairing. One other thing, when this guy dies, he drops little slimes after he walked over. As a priest, like, look how much health I take on Fortified. Like, that's almost half my health just stepping on one. So it really should not be you that's stepping on the slimes. Like, you can help out with one, but yeah, it's they either have to be stepped on or killed. Okay, for Ickus, here on this first platform, I usually just try to pump as much damage as I can. There's not really healing that needs to be done. There's one big thing for this guy. Anytime so use your ears, and anytime you hear him say, "What this needs," he's about to cast a debuff on the tank. That's a pretty hard-hitting dot. So that is your priority dispel. If you have other dispels throughout the fight to get rid of that haste debuff and stuff, that's great. But that's the big one that has to be. That is one that you have to remove, and remove it quickly, because it's gonna chunk your tank. And if it gets up to 2 stacks, it starts getting out of control. Right here, to kill the Plague Bomb, a couple things that you could do is you could either the easiest way is the tank tanks the congealed slime and the boss away, so that the Plague Bomb is not getting the damage reduction. But another thing that you can do is you can, like, for example, that slime was over here, you could CC it and then focus down the bomb and the boss without having to kill the slime. Helps you a little bit more with priority damage, but that's between you and your group. A lot of times if you're pugging, it's just easier to have the tank both away, and then you kill the slime first. Take some coordination to not break it. So slime injection, again, that's the debuff on the tank you have to dispel. When he's jumping around like this, when he lands, he's gonna launch out the oozes in an X. So Angelic Feather is usually my lifesaver there. I'd move away and then just kind of kite left or right to dodge the X. Other than that, it's a pretty easy fight. Moving on up the stairs. Okay, so there's a couple different routes here. This is a big divergence point for the dungeon. As you're going down this stair, this slime right here, in this route we skipped. This slime down here at the bottom of the stairs can give you the buff for Fleshcraft, so make sure that if you're Necrolord that you do that. This platform with all the ads up here that you can't really see, I recommend mass dispelling. If it's not bursting or something, you can mass dispel the platform to clear the ooze's ability to drop the puddles. So that platform gets really crowded. It's like a knife fight in a phone booth. Can feel like so. Having that mass dispel to get rid of that ooze buff will help clear up some space. Okay, and throughout this whole room, watch out for these. You see this this green slime. Let's see. That thing right there, that green puddle, that's where the slime tentacles are. Be very careful, stick with your group. Make sure to not accidentally pull those, because if you body pull one of those, it has to be killed, because it's going to throw projectiles at infinite range until it's killed. So something that you can do here in this area is use Fade. So I accidentally fell down. Rip. So anyways, when you're moving, for example, I was trying to catch up with the group here. Let me scoot back. You can use Fade. So here I use Fade and then Mount, and you can use that to avoid groups if you're worried about accidentally pulling them. You don't need it, but it is pretty nice to give you that extra wiggle room. Okay, down here, the stealthlings are a huge priority. If your group is not paying attention to when stealthlings are being cast, then what you need to do is you need to run to that area where the stealthlings are and start holy novaing, and after a couple seconds then go ahead and do a fear if the DPS still hasn't helped, because if those stealthlings go off, especially on a fortified week, somebody's gonna die. So those stealthlings are very scary. Another thing that you can do is the defenders of Maldraxxus, or the bulwarks of Maldraxxus. You can stun those to break the cast. You can also fear those. So what I do whenever there's stealthlings is I come in Holy Nova, just help with some AoE damage and stuff like that as much as I can, while still maintaining the healing. But the two things again on these is just make sure the spiderlings don't cast, and make sure that you stun the bulwark of Maldraxxus if you can. Okay, moving on. Alright, this boss. We had to pull some extra trash back here with this root. Domina. This one is honestly it's pretty manageable to heal, unless the brood assassins are not handled correctly. So somebody needs to go, whether your group is running around together. That used to be a strat. I don't know if groups are still doing that anymore, or you have DPS just running off and popping individual web puddles to get the assassins out. Whatever your group does, they need to be broken out as fast as possible so that they stop casting their assassination blades. It really hurts. So something that you can do is you can run over with a feather or something like that, or with a Door of Shadows, or Night Fae Soul Shape, and use Holy Nova to quickly break them out of the webs. It's pretty handy. When you're silenced like this, so this is a good thing to show. I was marked with Shadow Ambush. If you wait a second or two, then you can stay in the group to refresh your I don't remember the name of the debuff, the Solitary Prey. So right here, before you take the damage on the tick down, if you pop something like Fade or any kind of damage reduction that you have, then that's pretty nice. And then you want to go ahead and feather back in as quickly as possible in case a DPS didn't come and rescue you. But that is one of the biggest damage spikes, so just make sure that people are topped off before they're taking that solitary, ambush, shadow ambush. Other than that, whenever there's brood ambushers and stuff like that, you might need to pop some kind of a cooldown to help stabilize the group's health. And whatever mobility tools that you have, I usually try to renew blanket as we're running, to just get that little extra bit while we're moving. Okay, as we're going down the stairs, we had to pull some more trash here. Remember that there's this side room where you can pull some slimes, so if you go down and you need some more percentage, you can always do it there. Alright, this section, really nobody should be taking damage from any of these adds, because the tank should have aggro, or if you have melee DPS and stuff like that, they should realize that they can be turned on at any moment, and these adds up here really hurt, so they should be ranged down. A trick that you can do is you can jump over this little puddle here, so that you can ignore Ickus or Ichor or whatever his name is. And you can just focus down the groups that don't have him there, and then when you do kill him, he'll just teleport to the same spot over and over and over again, so you're not having to move around the room. Pretty handy. Alright, and now we're into Margrave Stradama. For Margrave, what I've typically seen is we come into the first phase with Prideful and cooldowns, and then we use Lust on the third phase, second or third. You'll have cooldowns for third. A couple things you're going to have to watch out for Margrave is this Malignant spawn. When you see that pop up, you want to be with the group over here, but not inside of the circle. That's a tank only soak. It needs to be soaked, otherwise the whole group takes damage, but you don't need to soak it with the tank. This section that you're standing will be safe from tentacles. Tentacles are going to spawn everywhere else except for where this Malignant spawn is. You can see that right there. Sometimes in this first phase, especially if it's not on Tyrannical, you can phase her before the Infectious Rain, but Infectious Rain for me is the entire fight. It's all about how I'm going to manage it. So on a Tyrannical week or something where she's hitting really hard with Infectious Rain, what I do is I wait for the 4 stacks. Let me see if I can find an Infectious Rain later. Real quick, when you're dotting, you can dot up these targets to help the group, but make sure that you fade before, or that you are paying attention to your threat. Sometimes if the rest of the group has not gotten threat, and you're running around and trying to survive the slimes, you can just quickly get one shot as you're taking some passing damage. So Infectious Rain, you'll see it stacks up to 4. As soon as it hits 4, I usually dispel one of the squishier ranged targets. And then you need some kind of way to manage this. It's just your basic heal from flash concentration or whatever is going to have a hard time keeping up with this. You can it's a low mobility time, so it's a good time for you to cast something like a Divine Hymn or something like that. Some kind of channeled ability, Tranquility if you're a Resto Druid or something. But that Infectious Rain needs to be a priority. I try to get a Prayer of Mending stack or 2 out before it goes, so that it's constantly bouncing around and I'm getting full value out of it. But use your toolkit. Pay attention to that Infectious Rain. It's a big deal. Other than that, that's really it. This whole fight for me is really just Infectious Rain, and it's so hard to manage on disc. It's much more comfortable on Holy, at least in my opinion. So that is my that's my run through on Plaguefall. I'm sure I missed things, so please let me know in the comments if there's anything, any other tips and tricks that we can all learn from. Let's use this as a resource for us going forward. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day.